welcome. This is the watercolor art class that we're going to do today is step by step. So hopefully it's not too intimidating. The picture that everyone was given was based on doing the outline of these flowers. And we've got some little petals that have fallen down the bottom. A little base for our container to sit on. And what we will do is paint one half. So after I drew this picture, I folded it completely in half from top to bottom. And we're going to paint one side with your dominant hand and the other side with your non-dominant hand. So if you're ambidextrous, where you can paint or write equally well with right and left, congratulations. I'm not, but if you have one hand that you do things better with, a right hand or a left hand, then the second half of the picture, we're going to use the other hand. So promise me you'll stick to it. It's hard. You'll feel very awkward, but the purpose of this is to loosen up your painting skills, your painting style. Sometimes when we paint, we try really hard to stay within the lines, to get everything exact. By using your opposite hand, it may look like a mess. It's probably going to be beautiful. Don't be too hard on yourself. Please remember, this is just a piece of paper. So in colors today, we've got blue, we've got purple, and if you don't have purple, if you mix red and blue, that will make purple. We've also got ochre, we've got raw sienna, and the green that's on there, I've made that green using ochre and the blue. So if you're wanting to get ahead of the game with that, you can mix a little bit of ochre and blue. And if you don't have purple, you can mix blue and red. And whatever the blue is you're going to use for your pot or for your vase, for the container that the water is in, that's the same blue you would use with your ochre. If you want to use sap green, what I'm doing when I use the same colors that are in the picture, it gives some congruence to the actual piece of art. So it's the same colors used throughout. I'm not adding any new colors. So to add a green, you're just adding a whole new color in. If you mix some of the same colors that are in your picture, it just flows together more smoothly. But it's up to you. If you want to use sap green or hooker's green or deep green for those leaves, you go ahead. This is your piece of art, so feel free to change it up if you like. I think I have cerulean blue that I've used on mine, so cerulean and cobalt mixed together.
Thanks. Thank you.
So the cerulean that I'm using will be the same color that I'm using for the container that the flowers are in. If you don't have cerulean blue, if you are using phthalo blue or cobalt, if that's what you've got, or Prussian or ultramarine, any of those colors, just use the same blue that you mix with your ochre. So I like to just take a moment to remind you that this is 1 hour, a gift of time specifically for you. So anything that's troubling you, let's just put that in the parking lot of your mind. If you're able to do that, just set that aside. It may go away after an hour, it may not, but give yourself this gift of time. And let's just take 3 deep breaths in. So as we take a deep breath in, we'll hold our breath just momentarily at the top. Just go into that moment of right here, right now. So even if you can focus on something around you, that will take you right back to here, and then we'll release. And as you release, just drop those shoulders down. So we'll just start deep breath in and hold it at the top and release. Drop those shoulders down. We hold a lot of tension here. Second deep breath in and hold it. Give yourself a smile and release. And a third deep breath in and hold it at the top and release. And just shake those shoulders out a little bit. Sometimes we hold a little tension, as I said. So please remember, this is just a piece of paper. Sometimes a piece of paper just wants to be a piece of paper. It doesn't want to be a piece of art. If that's the case today, you'll have the recording you can look at again and change it up if you like the second time around. So don't let this be the last time that you do art. I'm sure your art today is going to be beautiful. So we have brushes anywhere between a 6 to a 0 brush. So I've got a whole whack of brushes here. That's a great big one. This one is maybe a 10 or a 12. I may use that just to do the background. If you have a big one, sometimes I call that a mop brush, just because it holds a lot of water. And then I think I'll use my 0, my number 1, my number 3, and I've got an angle brush that I like to use periodically. And we'll also want a Sharpie pen, a gel pen, some kind of black fine liner. If you have a blow dryer and you think you need to blow dry the outside of your picture, you can have that handy as well. I won't be using the blow dryer today, but some of you may wish to have that handy. So you have a few minutes to get that. Go and grab that if you need it. We'll also want to have some paper towel handy. I just cut up a little one sheet into 6 actually. It's quite handy that I'm not using the whole roll all at once. And 2 containers of water. And I just keep one clear and the other I use for rinsing my brushes off. So with that, we'll start. So I'm using, as I said, my mop brush, and I'm only going to do 1/2 of the picture in my predominant hand, the hand that I use, that I'm able to paint the easiest with. I'm going to just wet. This is my right. I'm right-handed. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're left. Maybe you're ambidextrous. Good for you. It's okay if I go over the leaves just with clear water. I'm trying to avoid the flowers, but I can go over the leaves and I'm going around the outside of the container. So I'm not painting the actual flowers, but everything else is okay to get wet and just with clear water. Now you can turn your canvas, move it towards the light, and you'll see if there are parts that are dry, then you can just touch some fresh water on there. And I'm just avoiding those flowers, not painting the vase or the container. And I'm not painting those little petals down below either. I'm going to leave those without any color, without any water on them. So this is step by step. If I'm going too fast, Rochelle, you said you're new. So if I go too fast, please let me know and I will slow down. So again, I'm only doing half, just 1/2 in my right hand, or my dominant hand, the hand that I write the easiest with. And if you get hung up on details or it seems kind of stressful, just take a deep breath. And now I'm going to take this purple color. If you don't have purple in your paint tray, red and blue mixed together makes purple. So I'm
Did you go beyond the bottom line with water, Kathleen?
No, I've left the bottom where that line is. That's going to be ochre. That's my base. And I'm going to try and do that in right and left hand.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, Beth. And thanks everybody for coming again today. Hopefully spring is coming in your area. So I'm just using my dominant hand just for one half. And it's okay to go over those leaves, coming down. And it doesn't have to be, even though I've got water on there and some of it is blending, I'm on a canvas or on an easel. So my paint tends to run downward. If you're painting flat on a table, then you have a little more control of where that paint is going to go. But it doesn't have to be even everywhere. If it's lighter or darker in spots, that's okay. That actually will add to your composition. So not to worry about anything, nothing that you do is going to be wrong. This is all practice where we work together, try different things. Just trying to get an angle so that we can see. My reflection is funny today. And I've also got the card for halftime. It is a reflection card, and it's talking about something about time to relax. So again, just take a deep breath, not to get too stressed about perfection. If somebody is with you and they're painting, we all interpret things differently. So their artwork may be completely different from yours. So it's a bit finagly trying to get around those flowers, but you can do it, I'm sure. Now I'm going to get the bottom wet just with clear water, using my dominant hand on just one half at the bottom. And then I'm going to use ochre. Now, if you don't have ochre, ochre is a combination of yellow and brown, more yellow than brown. But if you have yellow, yellow would work just fine on this too. So again, I'm using the hand that I paint best with on the right hand side. I'm just popping that color down the bottom, just on one side. And watercolor is going to dry 20 to 30% lighter from the time you put it on. So if you want your colors to be really dark, you can go back and give a second coating once it's dried a little bit, or you can just leave it.
Kathy, we can't see the table that you're painting, the ochre part. There we go. Much
Good.
better. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so take a deep breath. Have your brush ready with clear water. Put your brush in your opposite hand. We're going to start at the top and we're going to get that wet right at the top of the vase. We will avoid any color on the flowers. It's going to be tricky, but just take a deep breath. you've never done this before, it's quite an interesting process. Your brain will want you to switch back to the other hand, but don't give it permission. Come right over the leaves, right over the branches, right across at the top of the vase or container, all the way down around that vase. And just avoid those little petals if you can. We're just putting clear water. You can come right over that big leaf. But those little petals that fell, we're just going to do a little circle around those. Try not to get those wet. And just to see if you've got everything wet, you can tip your canvas to the side. And you can probably see some spaces that you've missed. And so again, still using your opposite hand. Promise me you'll try this. And remember, drop those shoulders, not too tight. Okay, so now I'm using my opposite hand. I'm starting at the top. I've got lots of paint. It's really, it's really moving. It should go around my flowers because I didn't get them wet. And I'm coming right down to that center line so I don't have a white gap in the middle, right over the top of that vase or container. Feels a little bit foreign.
Kathy, which two colors you said mix it to make an ochre?
Brown and yellow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now it looks like I've spilled a little bit on my vase, and so I'm just going to tap that off, and I've got a little bit of a run down the bottom, and my little leaves on the side that I wanted to keep open, I painted over, so I'm gonna have to just touch that up. Still using my opposite hand. Which hopefully looks so natural. So for any that are new on today, this is not normal. This is just something new that we're trying just to loosen up some of our painting skills. Just to give us a feeling of a different way of painting. With that done, just the same opposite hand. I'm just getting water on the bottom of the other side. As I said, still using my opposite hand. Going into my ochre and just painting that side. And there's no need for everything to be completely even. If it's lighter or darker in sections, that's okay. And one of the things that I had mentioned is if you want to have a darker color, now I'm using my my dominant hand, I can go back over the other side with ochre and it will come a little bit darker just because things dry lighter or darker. They dry 20% lighter than when we put them on. So So I'm not going to introduce a new color. I'm going to paint my vase, or I'll call it a vase. I'm going to paint this blue. When I will paint the leaves and the branches, I'm going to paint them mixing the ochre that I put at the bottom with the blue that's on my vase. So I'm not introducing another green. I'm going to make green using colors that are already in the picture. So the blue that I put on the vase, the ochre that I have at the bottom, when I blend them together, they'll make a nice soft green, but it will have the same color family as what's currently in the picture. So I'm using blue. I'm using something called cerulean blue. Whatever blue you decide to use, that's the same color that you'll use for the green in your leaves. Now I have that blue on my brush and I'm using my big mop brush. I'm not wetting the vase first. I'm using wet paint on dry. So I'm using my dominant hand that I'm comfortable painting with all the time, just painting the vase, going around that little leaf in the center and coming down, but I'm only painting half. Now remember, I'm painting on an easel, so my paint is going to be really heavy at the bottom because it flows down. If you're painting flat on the table, it won't quite be the same for you. So if yours is darker than mine or lighter than mine, that's fine. If it's a totally different blue, that's okay. This is the cerulean blue. I'm just giving another coat because it just seemed like it was pretty watered down. And I do want it to show up. So this is with the hand that I normally write with or paint with. It makes things a lot smoother. And I'm not looking for the perfect vase either. If I have lights and darks in there, that's okay. At some point before we're finished, we'll put some a water line in there just to give it a little bit of energy. Now I can see that some of you are still painting. We'll just give a moment or so as we'll move to the other side of the vase. Well, that was the easy part because there's only one leaf on that side of the container. So now I'm going back into my cerulean blue with my opposite hand. And I'm going to go across the top of the vase, around the edge, down around the outside with my opposite hand. I'm also going to miss that flower. So I'm leaving that flower and I'm not painting it. And I'm coming down the center so I don't have a white line in the middle.
Do we go over the leaves of the flower or this?
Yes, we can go, well, yeah, we can go over the leaves. I think that's okay. I just left that one leaf on the other side.
Okay,
But we can
thank
go
you.
right, you're right, we can go right over that. And it doesn't have to be completely even. If there's lights and darks in there, that's okay. And if it feels a little bit awkward and you're getting stressed, just take a deep breath. Don't hold your breath when you're doing this. Believe it or not, we've made it to half time. So while you're still continuing to paint, I'll just read our card from the reflection series. So it says the time to relax is when you don't have time for it, by Sidney J. Harris. Take the time to relax and unwind before bed, without your phone or other media. Read a book, journal your thoughts on the day, or simply sit outside with the quiet and the night sky. Do your best to avoid screen time during this relaxation time. That's a tricky order, isn't it? That's a tall order for a lot of people. The time to relax is when you don't have time for it. Take the time to relax and unwind before bed, without your phone or other media. Read a book, journal your thoughts on the day, or simply sit outside with the quiet and the night sky. Do your best to avoid screen time during this relaxation time. I know a few years ago, I read something about a group that was holding classes for people to get off social media. And they found that they actually were having withdrawal. They weren't to have watches or television or cell phones or any other source of media. And so we really, at some point, many people got addicted to social media. So if you're able to unplug for a while, it's very healthy. So if you've had to make ochre using yellow and brown, that's good. If you've got another little puddle of it, perfect. If you don't have another puddle of it, go ahead and add that yellow and brown together. It's more yellow than brown. I would say 2/3 yellow to 1/3 brown would probably give you a nice mix. And so I've got ochre on my number 3 brush. I'm using my normal hand that I use, my dominant hand, and I'm just going to paint the flowers on the right hand side. I'm just going right around the outside. They have a little center that I'm going to leave white because I'm going to make that little center a red color using raw sienna, which will be quite pretty. So I'm just painting my flowers. There's 2 of them on the right-hand side, just using my number 3 pointed brush. And we will go over that with the black liner at the end just to give a little bit more definition of where the petals are. But for now, let's get the color on there. And the flower that's falling down from the vase. So this is wet paint on dry. Leaving that center. And if your flower has lights and darks throughout it, that's okay. Mine is on an easel, so that paint is running down.
So am I seeing a little center in the bottom of that flower? Because I didn't,
There's a little circle there, so I've left that.
okay, I didn't
And,
catch that.
and I've also left that circle around the outside up top.
That I saw. Thanks, Kathy.
Welcome back. And I'm going to paint the little petals down below, just ochre. Before I'm finished, I will add a little bit of raw sienna in there, but not while I'm painting this time, before we're finished our painting completely. And then if you've got those little flowers done, we're going to switch hands with ochre paint and paint those little buds down below, little petals that have fallen off the flowers. Just painting those little petals with ochre. With my opposite hand, I'm also going to paint those little petals that are falling. I'm still going to leave an extra minute or so for my container to dry. So I'm going to the upper flower and painting the outside of that flower, leaving that center white. So if you need to leave that center white, sometimes it's easy just to paint around it first. And I'm using my baby finger, which I do just to hold my canvas steady, just because I'm on an easel. And if I go outside of the lines, that's okay. That's part of what's going to give that look of easy flow in your painting. And it doesn't have to be completely even. If it's lighter or darker in some spots, that will give it a very natural look. And still using opposite hand, drop those shoulders down, take a deep breath. We're going to paint that flower in the center of our vase. If you go outside of the lines, don't beat yourself up. It's okay. There's also a little spot down at the bottom. Now I've painted that. I'll just touch on that just to relieve that paint. So I want the little spot at the bottom. I'm going to put a little bit of raw sienna down there as well, just to show the center of the flower. And there, we've survived it. Yes. All right, back to right hand or your dominant hand. I'm going to paint the center of that little flower that's falling down in raw sienna. If you don't have raw sienna, a little bit of red will do. And a little bit of raw sienna up the top. So this is the hand I'm most comfortable painting with.
Are we doing that dry on dry, wet paint on dry?
This is wet on dry, yes.
Thank you.
Yep. All of the colors that we will do from here on will be wet on dry. We won't be doing any more background or large surfaces. So in order to have some control over your colors, wet on dry works very well. And I'm just giving a little bit darker color. I had maybe a little bit extra water in there. And I mentioned at the very bottom, we were also going to do a few little dots of that raw sienna. If you have red, if you've used red instead of raw sienna, then we'll just put some little dots down the bottom where those little leaves have fallen off, just to add a little bit of color. And we don't want it to look too much like a pattern, so mess it up a little bit, just make a few bigger than a few smaller. And sticking with that raw sienna or red color, whichever you've chosen to use, we're going to switch over to the other side, to our non-dominant hand, the opposite hand, and we'll do the center of that flower. So take a deep breath if you need to. If it ends up bigger or smaller, not quite as round as that circle, that's okay. We'll do that little marking at the bottom of the flower in the center of our vase. And some markings down the bottom in and amongst our little petals that have fallen, just with that raw sienna. And then we're going to mix the same blue that you have used or put on for your vase and ochre to create a green color. So you might want to make a little bit of a puddle because we're going to do all of the leaves on all of the stems this color. And we'll do the shadow down the bottom of our vase this color as well. So the same color that you used in your vase and the same color that you used on your flowers. So that's the same color that I used on my flowers as I used down below. And this is just seems to be a stronger pigment in the ochre, just because it's dried lighter down the bottom as I used water first. So with my green, with my dominant hand, the hand I paint easiest with, I'm just going to trace that stem all the way down to my flower.
I thought you were talking about blue, but you're using green here?
This is blue and ochre mixed together makes this green color.
Wow, who knew? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if I mix this same blue that's on my vase and ochre, when I mix them together, it comes up to a green color. So this is the green that I'm using for my stems and my leaves. So I'm painting my leaves and my stems on one side. I've got my center stem coming up. And I've got this fun wispy leaf branch that comes down. And I'm also going to paint that one leaf in the center on the one side of my vase with my regular dominant hand. And you can put that green color on your brush, and with your opposite hand underneath the vase on both sides, we'll just put a little bit of marking of that same green color, just blend it in. So again, this is wet on dry. I'm just blending it in just for a bit. I'm just going to add a little bit of water. I just want that to be a little bit softer on the edge. I don't want it rough, a hard edge. So we're just making a shadow of the vase underneath in the bottom. So I'm just using my opposite hand to do the whole thing. And then with opposite hand, I'm going to start to fill in the other side. I'm going to do my branch coming down for the flower, my stem, my leaf. I'm painting that with opposite hand. So if you need to, take a deep breath, drop those shoulders. It's easy to get all tensed up about it, but there's no need. It's just a piece of paper. And I'm going to start at the top of that long branch, just resting my hand on the canvas, just as a little bit of support. it's not perfectly straight, it's okay. And then I'm going to add my leaves to that. And it's awfully quiet out there. I hope you're not too stressed about this. This will give you a different feel, a looseness to your painting in the future. Just by practicing this, it gives your brain a whole different thought process. And I'm coming from the stem of that side flower down to the vase. I'm painting those leaves. Now I'm leaving the one side to dry and I'm moving over back to my dominant side with my black Sharpie or marker if you have a gel pen or if you're using a black brush with paint. And I'm going to outline my leaves. This is on the side that was done first with my easiest hand to use. And I'm just outlining the leaves. I'm just drawing one single line for the stem down to the flower. And I'm going on the outside of the leaves just to give some definition. And you can add a little bit of a point on one. You can put some little lines if you wish in your leaves. That's up to you.
You said we could do it with the black paint as well?
I'm using the black pen for this, yes. Or black paint if you want to do this with your brush. But we're using our dominant hand, not our opposite hand.
Yay.
That's only for one half. Yay. Just for one half. We're going to do the same on the other half with our opposite hand. So let's see how we do with that. So I'm also going to give some little lines for the center, just out beyond the center of my flower, just coming into the flower. You can embellish on it if you want to add a little bit extra details around your flower. And coming down the bottom, I'll just outline the bottom of my earth. And I'm going to draw an outline around the outside of my vase on one side.
Kathy, did you outline the flowers as well?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
I'll bring it a little bit closer, you can see. So only on one side. So even this leaf in the center, I'll just draw around that one. So yes, everything that I have done, I've outlined. And then again, drop those shoulders, switch that pen or brush, whatever you're using, to the opposite hand. And then we're going to start. So I'm coming right up my branch, right to the outer edge, right to the leaf at the end. I'm outlining each leaf. So still using opposite hand. It's a whole different set of brain skills. And down this little flower in the center, around the leaf.
Did you outline the petals at the fell as well?
I will. I haven't yet,
Oh, okay.
but yes, I will. Yes, so it's a whole different set of skills. Really challenging. If I could just follow that line, that would be good. There we go.
Kathy,
Yes.
we use so much ochre with you, which I never even heard of ochre before I met you. But
Yes.
is there a flower that's ochre color that you know the name of? Just wondering, just thinking about it.
A daffodil
Is ochre?
is ochre.
Hold on.
Some tulips are ochre.
Show me a picture of a daffodil.
Show you a picture. I will
No,
email you.
I asked my phone.
Okay. If someone has sent me, and I forget who it was, maybe it was Rochelle that said a different, Rachel that sent me something about different colors. And a lot of Aztec used ochre. They used a lot of it. Oh, and I need to do my bottom line. So follow my bottom line along, and if it's not perfectly straight, that's okay. And with my dominant hand, I'm just going to put my artist signature on there. So please remember to sign your art. It's important. When we all look at our art, sometimes you can't find your own when you look at a collage. So please sign your art. It's important. You've created this beauty, so give it your name on there. Now, when I look at this, when I look at mine, I can see that one side is definitely looser than the other. This side is definitely more controlled. This side is looser. I went out of the lines in some places. Even my black lines don't completely match onto where I had painted, and I think that's okay. I think it gives me a good composition of right hand, left hand, right brain, left brain. Oh, and I need to go around the outside of my vase. I've missed a spot, so I need to actually continue. I haven't finished quite yet. Going around the outside and down to the bottom. I did go around the entire vase. I did my dominant hand on one side and my non-dominant hand on the other. Everything that I've done on one side is opposite hand, so completely opposite. But I definitely can see where this side is more flowy and this side's more controlled. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.